I work as a senior auditor for a major financial firm in the Sydney CBD, and my life basically revolves around endless invoices, spreadsheets, and brutal overtime, especially around the end of financial year. I wasn't always a bloke in a tailored suit working in an air-conditioned office with views of the harbour. My childhood was spent in a struggling regional farming town, where our entire lives depended on the unpredictable weather and ruthless bank loans. I will never forget that terrifying day when the bank foreclosed on our modest family home over unpaid debts, literally throwing us out onto the street. My dad seemed to age 10 years overnight, and my mum cried quietly as she packed our meagre belongings into cardboard boxes. Seeing their broken faces, I made an ironclad vow to myself right then and there as a kid. I promised that I would grow up, figure out exactly how money works, and never, ever let my loved ones end up in such a helpless situation again. It was this primal fear of poverty that kept me glued to my textbooks for days on end, while other teenagers were out partying and having a laugh. I clawed my way into a university campus through sleepless nights and doing hard yucca-picking shifts at local warehouses. Numbers became my only reliable anchor in this chaotic world, simply because math never lied and never betrayed you. After finally achieving success and becoming a highly respected specialist, I could take a breath and truly feel like a man capable of protecting his family. When I met Lily, I was absolutely captivated by her creative nature and this incredible lightness that I so desperately lacked in my own life. In my dry, pragmatic world, she was a brilliant ray of sunshine that made me want to move mountains. I genuinely wanted to be that unbreakable foundation for her, a safe base where she could build any dream she desired. I felt that my willingness to shoulder all our financial stress was the truest, most masculine expression of my love. I wanted to give her the absolute freedom of choice that I was completely deprived of in my own youth. Seeing her eyes light up when discussing paint swatches or timber textures was the ultimate reward for all my exhausting overtime. I was ready to give her every single cent I earned, blindly believing I was investing that money into our long, shared happiness. In my strict, mathematical mind, our marriage looked like a perfect equation where loyalty always equaled trust. I couldn't even fathom that the person I so carefully shielded from the world's problems was capable of stabbing me right in the back. I wanted this house to be more than just a building. I wanted it to be our family nest, the ultimate symbol of my victory over the past. I dreamed of how our future kids would grow up within these walls, soaked in our love, never knowing the fear of tomorrow. For the sake of this touching picture, I willingly turned myself into a 24/7 working machine, completely ignoring my chronic fatigue. My soul was entirely open to her, and I entrusted her with the most valuable things I had: my vulnerable heart and the fruits of my grueling labor. I figured that if we were building the walls of our house together, we were also building an indestructible wall around our family. But this absolute, almost blind devotion ultimately stopped me from noticing that I was personally funding my own destruction. My wife, Lily, had always dreamed of becoming an interior designer, and to support her ambitions, I took a massive risk. I took out a colossal mortgage to buy an old, run-down fixer-upper in a prestigious North Shore suburb. We agreed that I would entirely finance the project, while she would quit her boring admin job and act as the head project manager for our massive Reno. I trusted her taste and her choice of tradies unconditionally, dutifully transferring tens of thousands of dollars into our joint construction account while I spent days on end locked in the office. I honestly thought we were the ultimate dream team, building our forever home brick by brick. One evening, we were sitting at the kitchen table in our temporary rental apartment, and Lily looked absolutely exhausted. "Babe, this Reno is just draining the life completely out of me," she said with a heavy sigh, theatrically massaging her temples. "The builders are constantly demanding new materials, and the prices for premium paint and spotted gum timber have gone up again," my wife complained, sliding yet another stack of unpaid invoices across the table to me. "Don't stress, Dial. I'll transfer another 20 grand into the construction account first thing tomorrow," I reassured her, gently placing my hand over hers. "You have to understand that our head contractor charges a premium, but his craftsmanship is absolutely flawless. she added convincingly, looking me dead in the eye. I trust your judgment completely. Just make sure you aren't burning yourself out on that site, I replied, genuinely feeling sorry for my fragile, hard-working wife. I promise, the result will exceed all your expectations, and this house is going to be our ultimate pride and joy. Lily smiled sweetly, kissing me on the cheek, looking like the perfect, devoted spouse. Wanting to do something special to show my appreciation, I bought a high-end action camera and secretly mounted it right near the ceiling in our new living room, setting it to an automatic time-lapse mode. I was planning to edit a beautiful, fast-paced video showing the ruined house transforming into a masterpiece so she could post it on her socials to attract future design clients. I was so excited to see her genuine delight when I surprised her with this professional touching clip of our family nest coming to life. A week later, dead tired after a brutal shift, I decided to check the footage and downloaded the files from the SD card onto my work laptop. While Lily was taking a bath, I poured myself a strong cup of coffee and smiled as I hit play on the media viewer. I fully expected to see the bustling work of tradies, the framing of walls, and the complex process of plastering. But instead of construction magic, I saw a scene that permanently shattered my flawless world in a fraction of a second. What flashed rapidly across the screen made me literally choke on my coffee. The head contractor, the bloke I was paying top dollar, only appeared on camera to toss his tool belt into the corner. The high-def footage clearly showed my exhausted wife throwing her arms around his neck with a massive, joyful smile. They were acting so uninhibited and free, as if this house already belonged exclusively to the two of them. I sat frozen in front of the flickering monitor, unable to draw a breath as a freezing horror locked up my lungs. Her morning complaints about how much this heavy renovation was draining her echoed deafeningly in my head. Now, I was witnessing exactly where her energy and my hard-earned sleepless money were actually going. Instead of renovating, he was popping open my expensive, collectible bottles of wine, after which he and Lily spent hours passionately kissing and making out on our brand new expensive lounge, which was barely covered by a plastic drop sheet. My own camera, bought with such pure, loving intentions, was methodically and impartially documenting the filthy collapse of my marriage. This high-speed time-lapse wasn't a beautiful story about building our dream home. It was a detailed chronicle of the most sickening deception of my life. The woman I had gone into colossal debt for had shamelessly turned our active construction site into a free motel for her secret rendezvous. Every single lying word she had spoken at our dinner table now took on its true, repulsive meaning. The realization that I had been cold-bloodedly used as a convenient, bottomless ATM hit my pride harder than any physical punch ever could. I stared at their tangled bodies on the screen, and my blind love rapidly mutated into a scorching, burning sense of pure disgust. In that moment, I realized my little surprise was a massive success. Only the main audience for this disgusting movie turned out to be me. I slowly closed the laptop lid so I wouldn't have to look at their smug faces for another second. Clenching my fists until my knuckles turned white, I forced myself to calm down, knowing full well that flying into a blind rage right now was simply not an option. My heart had completely dropped out, but my professional auditor's habit of hunting for discrepancies instantly shut down the panic and booted up a cold, ruthless calculation. In those first few minutes, I wanted nothing more than to smash that laptop into 100 pieces and scream from the unbearable agony in my chest. But I had worked in the financial sector way too long to let raw emotion overpower logic. I didn't barge into the bathroom to scream curses at my wife. Instead, I opened the statements for our joint construction account and began methodically cross-referencing them with the invoices she had been sending me for payment. My mind transformed into a flawless analytical machine, scanning every single suspicious digit and routing number. I started running background checks on the Australian business numbers, ABNs, listed on these beautifully formatted invoices. What I uncovered made the blood freeze in my veins at the sheer magnitude of her audacity. The vast majority of these supposedly premium construction firms were absolute shell companies, registered literally a couple of months ago. It turned out that this so-called master contractor was actually her old ex-boyfriend from uni. I dug up his old photos deep in her social media archives and unmistakably matched his face to the bloke on the video footage. Lily had been regularly transferring astronomical sums of my money to him for fictitious building materials and labor that was never actually performed. Tens of thousands of dollars were being written off for the purchase of imported Italian marble and rare timber that weren't even in the blueprints for our house. Instead of building materials, this massive pile of cash was funding their expensive dinners, designer clothes, and secret getaways. They were openly and brazenly bleeding my credit limit dry to sponsor their fun, all hiding behind the convenient facade of renovating our family home. I sat in the dim light of the kitchen, listening to the carefree splashing of water from her bath, crystal clear on the fact that my wife was a cold-blooded fraudster. She hadn't just cheated on me. She had methodically and cynically robbed me blind every single day. Those two were clearly laughing at me, viewing me as a boring corporate clerk who obediently footed the bill for their festival of life. Grasping the true reality of the situation instantly killed off any lingering scraps of pity or affection I had for this hypocritical woman. My broken heart was entirely replaced by an ice-cold, terrifying determination to destroy them both using absolutely legal methods. I created a highly secure, encrypted folder on my hard drive and began carefully compiling the digital evidence. I downloaded every fake invoice, every bank statement, and securely backed up the raw video files from the Action camera. As a senior auditor, I knew exactly how to package a financial crime dossier so that the perpetrators wouldn't have a single loophole to escape through. I cold-bloodedly drafted an official, comprehensive fraud report for the Australian Taxation Office, ATO, attaching all the gathered evidence to the file. This report didn't just mean a slap on the wrist or a fine. It meant a very real threat of serious jail time for tax evasion and document forgery. The following morning, making the excuse of an important meeting with a corporate client, I headed straight to a prestigious family law firm in the CBD. I hired the most ruthless divorce lawyer available, a bloke notorious for leaving cheating fraudsters without a single red cent. After hearing my story and reviewing the digital dossier I'd compiled, the lawyer just shook his head in absolute admiration at the flawless execution of my work. He assured me that with this mountain of evidence, the house would remain entirely mine, and all the fictitious construction debts would fall exclusively squarely onto her shoulders. I walked out of the lawyer's office feeling an incredible surge of power, eagerly anticipating the absolutely justified payback that was coming. Now, all I had to do was keep smiling sweetly at my wife and wait for the exact moment her perfect master plan came crashing down violently onto her own head. The perfect moment for my devastating strike arrived when Lily hosted a lavish party to celebrate the completion of the ground floor renovations, inviting our parents, our mates, and that exact same contractor. She had hired expensive caterers and was floating between guests in a stunning new designer dress, bought, naturally, with my money. Her ex-boyfriend, playing the role of the hard-working tradie, was standing smugly by the kitchen island, soaking up compliments for the supposedly brilliant job he had done. Both sets of our parents were proudly inspecting the freshly painted walls, completely oblivious to the filthy secret hiding behind that fresh facade. When all the guests had gathered in the center of the living room with glasses of champagne, marveling at her incredible hard work, I took the floor and cast my edited video onto the brand new smart TV. I asked for a quick minute of everyone's attention, announcing that I had prepared a very special surprise for my beloved wife and her highly talented builder. The guests cheered happily, fully expecting to see a touching, sentimental montage of how we built our family nest together. But the sped-up footage of their intimate, explicit activities on that very lounge instead of actual construction work plunged the room into a deafening, absolute state of shock. Lily went so pale she looked like she was about to pass out right there on the floorboards. On the massive screen, set to an upbeat, cheerful track, scenes flashed of them drinking my collectible wine and laughing, without so much as touching a single power tool. A second later, the video transitioned to crystal-clear screenshots of the fake invoices and bank transfers to her lover's dummy shell companies. The ringing silence in the living room was so thick, it felt like someone had hit the mute button on the entire crowd. Lily's mother covered her mouth in absolute horror with shaking hands, while her father turned beetroot red from the unbearable shame of his own daughter's actions. I loudly informed her parents that their daughter had been systematically embezzling my money, and with a polite smile, I handed her lover a printed copy of the fraud report I had already submitted to the ATO and the police. It turns out your daughter isn't just a rubbish interior designer, she's also a world-class fraudster, I stated in a crystal-clear, calm tone into the dead silence. The contractor tried to quietly slip out the back door, but I blocked his path and shoved the thick envelope directly into his shaking hands. I politely explained to him that the tax office was already investigating his dummy ABNs and fake invoices, and he was now looking at serious prison time for tax evasion and fraud. Lily threw herself at me in tears, desperately trying to grab my arm and begging me not to make this humiliation public. But I stepped back in pure disgust, like I was avoiding a venomous snake, and pointed straight to the pre-packed suitcase waiting for her in the corner of the hallway. Over the screams and sobs of my disgraced wife, I kicked her out the front door with a single bag, permanently securing the house for myself and leaving those two waiting for inevitable court dates and total bankruptcy. The guests began to quickly and silently file out of our home, actively avoiding making eye contact with the sobbing hostess collapsed on the front porch. My lawyer did his job flawlessly. Any attempt she made to claim a share of the property was immediately blocked by the courts due to the proven, documented financial crimes. This house is now solely mine, and I plan to finish the renovations exactly the way I always dreamed, just without any lying, toxic people in my life. Revenge is a dish best served ice cold, accompanied by perfectly calculated tax declarations and undeniable digital proof. What do you guys reckon? Was exposing them with a video and reporting them to the cops and the tax office too harsh of a punishment? Or did she get exactly what she deserved for her scam? Make sure you drop your honest opinions down in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe to our channel, because we've got plenty more satisfying, jaw-dropping stories of karma coming your way.